Welcome to the Influencer Show with your host, Trishawn Ben Salmi.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Influencer Show, where I interview people who can help influence the way you live life in a number of different ways. I'm your host, T7, and today we have two very special guests with us. So if you'd like to introduce both of yourselves and tell the audience a little bit about you.
Matt, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. Hey, thanks so much for having us on. I'm Matt Eccles. I'm the marketing director at the Tytek group. I think predominantly in this environment, what we do is make products that will stop a catastrophic bleed. So we have a battlefield heritage, but with a lot of knife crime in the UK, with a lot of active shooter incidents in the US, we're doing everything we can to provide a solution, not to the cause, but certainly to the effect of a catastrophic bleed.
And I'm Ryan Burke. I'm the Director of Emergency Preparedness with Tytek Medical. I've been on board with the company for about 6 months now, and I come from the first responder and hospital world.
I think that's absolutely amazing, just what both of you guys do. I think it's something that's really, really important, especially now more than ever, because like crazy things are happening. And it's just about simply having that knowledge. So then if you are ever in that situation, you know how to act accordingly.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly, Trey. And what people don't realize is the knowledge that you have to potentially save a life is absolutely minimal. Just some minimal knowledge and some minimal equipment, and you can definitely save a life, save multiple lives, if you have the interest and the desire to take about an hour of your time to learn. And that's all it takes, is about an hour of your time.
I think that's just so amazing, because then you're then able to save a life and actually learn how to do so in such little time, and you have that lifelong skill with you.
Absolutely, and it's a skill that you keep with you, but it's kind of like riding a bike. Once you learn how, you could do it again. If you don't do it for a while, you're a little rusty and a little wobbly. So we recommend that you refresh, roughly on an annual basis. But it's simply, 3 simple things, really. It's pressure, pressure, and more pressure. It's applying pressure directly with your hands to a wound. It's utilizing a tourniquet to create pressure, or it's actually packing a wound with gauze and creating pressure essentially from that inside out to stop the bleed. And many people don't realize is that if you get the right wound, you can actually bleed to death in 3 to 5 minutes. And that's not a whole lot of time to be able to react to save somebody's life. So if you think about your fire department, your police department, your EMS, even if you have the best system, when you call them, it's going to take them 5 minutes or so to get there. So we need people that are there on the scene, those immediate responders, to be able to help their fellow man in the time of need.
No, definitely so. That's just really important. As you said, it's a skill that as many people as possible should be equipped with. As you said again, just in those different scenarios, they know how to handle themselves, and they're actually able to save those lives. And what would you both say has been like the biggest influence on you that you wish I'd known sooner?
I think for me, Trey, I think the realization that being the class clown and impressing your mates instead of learning doesn't help you when you in the exam room and when you walk outside the school gates. And I think, looking back, if I'd known that sooner and sort of maybe grown up a little bit quicker, I think, that would certainly be my number one.
Sadly, Trey, I have to kind of echo Matt's comments. If I would have known then what I know now, I would have been a whole lot nicer to my teachers. I'll tell you, when I graduated, after I received my diploma, my freshman high school English teacher came up to me and said, "Mr. Burke, now that I'm no longer your teacher, I feel comfortable in telling you this, but you're the only student in my 30 years of teaching that I wanted to repeatedly kick in the shins." And I wish I would have been a little bit nicer to her years ago, because she.
Teachers could do that 30 years ago, not now.
Yeah. So, Miss Tyler, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be that way towards you in class.
I definitely, I definitely think that's something that just everyone needs to learn from at the end of the day, because as sort of insignificant how small it does seem to us, it can actually mean a load of things for that person. For example, they may be having that worst day, and then all of a sudden, just for example, you might smile at them and they feel absolutely amazing. So I definitely think that just by doing those small acts of kindness can definitely absolutely change lives and even save lives, especially if you guys as kids.
Yeah. Well, and I think we need to realize that, the younger generation, you all are the dreamers, you all are the visionaries, you all are what is going to lead the world down the road. But we have to have mutual respect both ways, because the older generation, and I hate to include myself in the older generation, but we have life experience, we have wisdom, we have knowledge. And if we just learn to recognize that and respect one another, I think we can do a lot of great things.
Yeah, it is a shame, really, just to sort of see how the young generation, they sort of lost that connection with the old generation, lost that respect, and simply having those barriers in place, really. And it's sometimes.
But I think
really,
that might be argued across generations that have gone before.
Oh yeah.
No,
I guess it just brings it sharply into focus when you're in that space. I mean, I know how I was when I was 15 to how I am now when I'm 50, and clearly very different.
Of course. And what would you guys say people could do to stay motivated during moments of crisis?
I think being able to react and respond in a crisis, you have to have the training and you have to have practice. A lot of response to crisis, a lot of positive response to crisis is by practicing. That's why, we're so successful at getting people out of buildings when there's fires, because in school and even in the workplace in many places, we have fire drills and we practice, and our bodies just naturally respond when we hear that alarm going off or when we hear that, emergency call going out. So I think it's just taking the time to, realize that, yes, these things can happen, and yes, these things can happen to you and in your community, and, taking note of that and just getting educated and practicing.
No, definitely just important, just about getting that muscle memory in place so that as you said, to act accordingly, really.
Correct. And I think, a lot of people discount some of this training and information because they think it's only related to, mass casualty attacks or battlefield or that kind of stuff, the large scale events. But, people have life-threatening injuries in their day-to-day lives all the time. You're in the garage working on a project, you can get injured with a saw. You're at work, you are driving down the road with your mates and you see a car accident. There's many ways to apply this life-saving training in the day-to-day.
No, definitely agree. And could you guys share with the listeners what your unique passions are?
Ryan, over to you.
My unique passions, I'll be honest, for the last 24 years, my passion has been my two sons. My oldest son is out of the country, serving in the military, and my youngest son just got finished a construction training program. So, my time and my passion has been invested in them to this point. Now that they're kind of out of the house, I need to identify what my new passion will be moving forward. But I definitely have a passion for my work. I have a definite passion for connecting with people. And, a lot of first responders, we think that the knowledge that we have in our heads is just common sense knowledge that everybody has. But we have to realize it's not, because people don't do this all the time. Not everybody is a first responder. And I think some of my passion is transferring some of what's in my head into other people's heads, and hopefully to potentially save a life.
And I think in my working environment, I did my degree in communications. I work in communications. I'm hugely passionate about communicating propositions and to an audience, and how that works, and how to drive an audience's behaviour. And outside of that, in my sort of personal world, I own some racing greyhounds. They are beautiful, powerful creatures, superbly looked after. I think they eat better than everyone I know. And it's a real thrill to watch them race. And when they win, that's a real buzz. So, yeah, I think along those two lines of definitely down the communications route, and then personally with the wonderful animals that I own, and they're so friendly.
And I definitely think that's something that is absolutely amazing, and just having that time to then invest into something else and just see how all of that investment has been paid off in the long run, really. Just being able to, as you said, Ryan, just invest the time to your sons, and as you said, Matt, just constantly giving the greyhounds the best of the best, and just seeing how your then investments have been actually paid off and actually multiplied in the long run, really. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing how we can love animals and care for animals so much. They're just like our children, and like you said, we do try to give them the best of the best as well.
Yeah, exactly. No, definitely. And if you had a megaphone and you could say one thing to the world or have a lasting influence, I want to know, what would it be and why?
I think I'd say, listen, I know I'm shouting at you while you're listening to me, but please try and listen to one another. I mean, it genuinely makes a difference.
Yeah.
Going back to what I said about communication, it's not about saying and thinking, what am I going to say next? It's about listening and try it. You won't believe the results, I promise.
Matt, I think you're spot on with that, because a lot of times we listened, and as we're listening, we're preparing our response, where we should just listen to listen, digest what's being said, and then have our response. But
I think we live in a world where you've got that instant gratification, where you feel you need to come out with an opinion or something very quickly to make you look sharp or whatever, but actually taking a step back and reflecting and then coming back with something more solid, as you said, Ryan, can't beat it. Well,
and just, I think my megaphone phrase or statement would be just be kind to one another. We all walk in different shoes, and, I have no idea what happened to Matt on the way to work this morning. Maybe something in his personal life, bad in his personal life happened, and that's why he's being a little bit abrasive, today or something. And me, if I automatically respond to that abrasiveness, I'll take that tension and escalate it to the max. But if I take a minute and just not react to that abrasiveness or something like that, maybe I'll find out that something bad happened that morning and he didn't mean to be that way. So, we really just have to be kind to one another, listen to one another, and not just immediately react to one another.
No, I definitely think that's something that's so very key, something that's so hard, because when often like just when anything happens, people may think, oh my God, I'm so strong and things like that. But the true strength is actually being able to then act accordingly and actually understand that, yes, you may get away with this now, but in the long run, the consequences shall come around. So it's about just being able to understand how it works. I definitely think that's something that's really important. And I second what you said there, Matt, as well, just about being able to listen instead of hearing what they say, because often people, as you said, people are talking to them and they're already preparing the next response. But then you're not really then acknowledging and just taking in what's actually being said. And I think that's something that is like people are struggling with a lot more now than ever before, because I just use like technology and just a load of other things really. It's just really pushing people to the edge and just always wanting that short-term gratification, as you said.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of noise, isn't there? And you're trying to cut through that noise.
Yeah.
With what, your own voice, and it's difficult.
Yeah. I mean, we're all just trying to figure it out. The world right now is trying to figure out COVID, and different political views are being imposed upon us. Differing science opinions are coming out, and sometimes they're conflicting and stuff like that. So we're all just trying to figure it out. I don't think anybody inherently is trying to do the wrong thing necessarily. We all want to keep ourselves healthy, keep our loved ones healthy. So, let's just take it easy, and let's just kind of navigate this together.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely agree. Like, no one's really like sort of like in it because they want to be wicked. They just sort of like have a distorted perspective. Really, they just don't really see the bigger picture. And it's just about like just simply encouraging and just influencing them to then take a step back and see how things will actually pan out in the long run.
Absolutely.
It sounds very simplistic, but it would solve a lot of division, I think.
Yeah, no, of course, definitely agree, definitely. And what advice would you give to those who maybe have had their very own £1 million idea at a time like this?
Well, I would. Ryan, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Matt.
I think your pockets are fuller than mine. So I would say do your due diligence, whatever your idea is. Surround yourself with people you can trust, which is really important. But you know what? Just go for it. Good things come to those who wait is not something or a mantra that I hold dear. If you want something, go and make it happen. And if you've got the funds to go and make it happen, like I say, you've got people around you that can help you do that, and you can trust yourself. Do it.
And I think we should all seek out differing opinions. Don't just sit in the echo chamber where somebody's telling you that this product is the greatest thing ever. Seek out that dissenting opinion that says, well, there's a flaw in this product. And, we're always trying to make product, our idea, our show, we're always trying to make things, better. And if we just listen to people telling us how great we are, and we don't go out there and find that constructive criticism, we'll never improve anything, because we're never going to work to improve anything, because we think everything's perfect, if that makes sense.
No, of course. It's about seeking that constructive criticism, which could then enable you to then take that business, take that product, or just take you as a person to that next level.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why, like in the business world, we have annual evaluations where our bosses take a look at our work product, our, attitude through the year or whatnot, and how we handle ourselves with our coworkers. And they evaluate us. But something that's become really popular is what's called a 360-degree or 360 evaluation, where not only our bosses are evaluating us, but our peers. And if we supervise people, those that we supervise have the opportunity to provide feedback on our evaluation. And although we think we might be kind to those that work for us, maybe they see a flaw that in our personality or something that we can work on. Maybe we didn't know that something we were doing was making life more challenging for them to do their jobs, unless we seek out that feedback from, 360 degrees around.
No, of course. Definitely, yeah, something that is definitely something that can have a huge change just by simply implementing that. It can actually just change the whole person because it shifts their perspective, their mindset, and just the way they then act in different situations. Really,
Just gives you that opportunity to check yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And
And if somebody out there is listening and they're thinking that I don't need to check myself, there's nothing wrong with me, then you may be part of the problem, because there's always opportunity to check yourself and look into yourself to improve.
Of course, no. Obviously, it's always room for improvement. Definitely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say was that pivotal point along your journey, and what did it teach you both?
I think for me, deciding that, or coming to the epiphany that education really was the way forward. I left school at 16, did a procession of terrible jobs, and didn't give myself any options until I went back to college at 22 for 4 years, which gave me the confidence in my own ability. At school we were kind of written off if you weren't attaining certain standards. And let's be fair, I wasn't. As I said before, I was too busy impressing everyone with my quick wit and my repartee. But coming to that realization, maybe a little bit too late, was certainly pivotal to my journey. And like I say, I've never looked back.
Matt, you forgot your charm, your quick wit, repartee, and your charm.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Silly me.
So, I echo 100%, what Matt has to say about education. Educating yourself, developing your skill, refining your skill is the way to change your situation. There are many different socioeconomic situations across the globe. And, I've never known money to fall from the sky. And to change your situation, you have to change your skill and ability to improve yourself, to be able to improve your life. When I first came out of high school, I was thrilled to be out of high school because I was not a fan of school at that point in time. And when I went into EMS and firefighting, I went to a lot of trade schools and technical schools because I just wanted to learn what I needed to know to do my job. I didn't care about the history or the humanities or sociology, English and all that. But as my career progressed, I realized that I needed that well-rounded education as well to kind of move myself up that ladder. So I wouldn't just say university is the only way out of a bad socioeconomic situation. One of my favorite TV shows in the world, I'm not sure if you have it over in the UK, but we have it here in the States. It's called Dirty Jobs. A gentleman by the name of Mike Rowe is the host of that show, and it aired for probably about 10 years in the early mid-2000s. But it goes around highlighting people that pretty much function in trade jobs that earn a good living, and without them, the world would cease to function, that go home at night stinking to high heaven, as dirty as can be, but we would not be successful without them. So if you're not a person that likes, classroom and university type setting, or, hitting the books and stuff like that, trade school is an option and is something that we need in the world right now.
No, it's definitely just like so.
And that comes in the form of apprenticeships here, Trade, as you know.
Yeah. No, of course, and definitely does. So vital, just to put into perspective how fundamental, just how key these people are, because we often take for granted, just like, for example, like volunteers, we often think, oh my gosh, they're so useless, or they're not worthy of getting paid. But if you actually think of it, they're actually so priceless, because what they're doing is something that you can't put any amount on in a way.
Well, look at the way, for instance, cleaners, delivery drivers, supermarket workers were viewed before the pandemic, and how absolutely integral they've been to keeping everything moving throughout it, and going in where others fear to tread.
Yeah, no, of course.
And I'm not sure how it is in the UK, but in the US, you know, a good portion of our fire departments and emergency medical services here are volunteer basis. So, you know, don't discount volunteers, because those individuals are still going into the same fire circumstances that paid professional is going into, but they're not earning that paycheck. They're doing it because they love their community, they love their neighbors, and they want to contribute back to the community. So volunteerism is huge as well.
No, I definitely agree with that. And what would you say are like the top 3 lessons that you guys have learned along your journey, and how did they influence where you look at life?
Now, this is going to make me sound like a bit of a clown, and that I go through every day making huge mistakes, but something I've learned is own up to your mistakes, apologize for them, and learn from them. You know, and that comes with a development of emotional maturity at whatever age you are. But I would certainly say they're the top 3 lessons that I've sort of picked up, learned, and taught myself, if you like.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant statement. You know, I think many life lessons that I've learned, one of which is I am not as smart as I think I am sometimes, that there are other people who do know more than I do, and I need to listen, and I need to, you know, heed their advice and their recommendations, and not just do things my way, because my way is not always the right way. So again, listen to those, I don't want to say who are smarter, but, you know, listen to individuals who are in the know, critically think. I think that's something that's very important that we've lost a little bit of in the world, is the ability to critically think and formulate our own opinions. Unfortunately, you know, too many people read what, you know, Twitter or Facebook or any of the other social media has to say and just take that as gospel, but they don't look deeper in to find the rest of the story, because, you know, no matter what, you know, one of the truths in life is there's always the other side of the story. And once you have both halves of the story, somewhere in the middle is the truth, and you have to find that out. And if you don't go seek that, then you're not doing yourself or anybody else justice.
No, definitely. It's just about like diving deeper to the story behind the story, as you said, and just about like finding out what did they have to do, what sacrifices, things like that. Then it actually gives you a full perspective as to what the person has gone through to get you where they are today. Because, like, as I spoke earlier, on social media, people think, oh my gosh, I want to have what he had, or I did like him. But then you don't truly know the full story. You're just seeing this facade of what they put on social media. So then you may be thinking, oh, I want to have what he has. I want to be where he is. But then you don't actually know what he gets up to on a daily basis.
Well, everyone's living their best life, aren't they, on social media? So.
Yeah.
And I would say,
Yeah.
A good portion of those best lives are absolute frauds. You know, I can go to a car dealership and take a picture next to a Lamborghini and say it's mine, and give the image that I have all these things, but when in reality, you know, I don't have enough money to rub two nickels together. So again, don't always take things for its face value.
Trey, you ought to see the size of his truck. It's a monster.
Yeah.
You couldn't park it here in the UK.
Oh my. I definitely think that's something that it's just so important, and just something that people just need to awaken to, really.
I agree.
Very much so.
On a con.
Well, I was just going to make a note that, you know, individuals, you know, such as yourself that are going out and seeking, you know, people of different backgrounds that have different stories and different perspectives and different wisdom and insights and stuff like that, and just having these conversations and, you know, sharing them, you know, with, you know, your followers, or, you know, sharing them, you know, out with the rest of the world, you know, is a good thing. You know, I don't know, maybe a young person will, you know, see this and say, you know, I never knew that, you know, I could use my given abilities for for speaking or the written word, or, you know, my imagination and my talents for creative arts as a marketing director for a company. Maybe I'll look into that. Maybe that's something I can do and be successful at. You know, going back to that show, Dirty Jobs, I had no idea that half of the jobs that he showed were actually real legitimate careers that people earned a good living at. So, you know, I think communicating these opportunities to people and sharing these conversations is important.
And on the flip side of that, I remember my daughter, when she was 14, saying to me, "What, you get paid to run social media accounts?" And couldn't get her head around it, you know.
Yeah.
It's a small part of what we do, but it's part of what we do. And as Ryan says, bringing those skills in, absolutely, you know, it's all there for you.
If you follow what your passion is, and you do what you enjoy doing for your career, you'll never work a day in your life. You know, there is in this world today, there is always something that you can do that fits your passion as a career.
Exactly, yeah.
I think you've just got to create the conditions that will give you those options and those choices.
Yeah.
I mean, people get paid well to play video games for a living. So if their career's out there, there's a career for everybody.
Exactly. No, definitely. And if you had to be like another person for one day, who would it be and why?
Matt, I'll let you take that first one.
Okay. I think probably, having met the man, it'll be the Prime Minister. It's funny, when I did meet him, I saw him coming down the aisle in this room we were in, and there was this huge buzz and just lots of people around him. And you think, you know, how can you make any sort of high-level decisions? Where do you find the hours in the day when you're surrounded by people? And it's not just him; it's any sort of figurehead leader. You know, where's the time to go through hugely important decisions, like, you know, whether we should be wearing face masks, or, you know, something that's going to help the economy, when so many people are pulling at your time. And I know that's why we have a cabinet and a civil service with thousands, hundreds of thousands of workers. But bottom line, ultimate decisions are signed off with the person in number 10. So I think spending a day in their shoes and seeing how they cope with it, you know, it's a 25-hour day minimum, I'm sure. That would interest me immensely.
You know, back when I was, I've been asked this question before when I was little, and I think my answer in the fourth grade is still my answer today. In fourth grade, our class named the space shuttle that replaced the Challenger that exploded in the 80s. And we named it the Endeavor. And in doing so, we got to go to Washington, and there was some fanfare and that kind of stuff. But a reporter had asked me, what was more amazing, meeting the President of the United States or meeting the astronauts? And my response to you today, and as it was then, is I would be an astronaut for a day. I would be out there exploring, and seeing what's out there, because I have an explorer's heart. So I think the ability to trade positions with like a Neil Armstrong, first setting foot on the moon, would be the ultimate.
That is absolutely amazing. I definitely think that's something that is just really, really inspiring. Just to have that dream to then go out and explore, actually, like beyond the limits in a way, really. Because at one stage, people were thinking, there's no way we're going to get to space. It's impossible. Like, you must, like, I want what he's having. But, like, now they see it as something that is more than possible. And the things that we're able to do each and every day is constantly growing and improving and constantly just stretching that ever so slightly each and every day. And as you said, like, simply just find that passion, go with it, and then the money and everything else should then come as a result of you just continuously being congruent.
Yeah.
It's perspective, isn't it? If you're up in space and looking down, you realize how small and insignificant it all is.
Well, and the most amazing thing is, a lot of people today think that there's nothing left to be explored, on Earth. But honestly, we really know very little about the planet. There's portions of the rainforest that have never been explored. There's portions, definitely large portions of the ocean, the depths, that have never really truly been explored and stuff like that. So, if you have an explorer's heart, follow that heart and go find something that nobody's ever seen before.
No, exactly. And what are your views on the word legacy? And what legacy would you guys like to leave?
I think the word legacy recently has kind of shifted, hasn't it? Particularly in the wake of Black Lives Matter, and we've seen how legacy and how we look back on ourselves in terms of who we put monuments to, what sports teams are named, has fundamentally shifted, and rightly so. And I think it's very subjective, isn't it, about the legacy? Because obviously I'd like my legacy to be a positive one, but that will be to the people closest in my life. And I guess it's how I live my life and try and behave as a role model, certainly to my children and to the people around me. And I think that's the best any of us can do. And beyond that, obviously, it comes, you're in the territory of being a well-known face or try indeed an influencer.
Yeah, I see the legacy as not a huge monetary endowment to a college or a hospital or something like that. That may get your name on something, but 30, 40 years from now, who's going to know, who's going to really care? And as we see today, if somebody looks back at your life and realizes you're not 100% of a perfect person, they're just going to scratch your name off the wall anyways. So I think the best legacy that we can leave is, first off, our kids as a parent, making sure our kids are well-adjusted, functioning members of society that are contributing to society, not just taking from or contributing to the chaos of society. Because if you impart that upon them, being good, well-rounded people, good, well-rounded citizens, good, well-rounded stewards of whatever religion you believe in, that will then continue on to their children and their children, and hopefully leave a legacy that will not just last a generation or two, but a much longer lasting legacy.
No, exactly. I definitely agree with both of the points that you guys raised there. Just about having that positive influence, just having that sort of like role model in a way to then look up to and then adopt and then actually emulate certain traits that you find either beneficial, something that you just want to give a try and see if it can then give you maybe even similar benefits, and also just about like just being able to then analyze and just like take a step back in certain situations, like you said earlier. I definitely think that's something that is just like so important, especially when it comes to legacy and just having something that is long lasting, as you said, Ryan, and that despite like however many years it is after, people still know that this is what you stand for, this is your purpose, this is how you made that change, and this is how you continue to make that change. I think that's something that is just so important, yet very few people actually take the time to then sit back and then reflect and actually think about what they are leaving behind.
Well, and
Continuous improvement, isn't it, in a nutshell?
well, there's two important things you kind of brought out there. First off, what you're doing, your, I guess, title as an influencer is, I think, the right direction of what an influencer should be, because most influencers that are out there are influencing you to wear a pair of jeans, a pair of shoes, drink a soda, or buy something, and they're influencing you to do it because they get paid to influence you to do it. Where you're going out there and trying to influence people to explore themselves and to improve themselves, and therefore improve society a little bit. So, hats off to you, my friend, for doing that. The other thing is, you bring out the topic of self-reflection. Again, recognizing you're not the smartest person, strongest person, the best person, that the world has ever seen, and that there is room for improvement in yourself. And I think going back to a question you had a minute ago about what was a pivotal moment in your life or something to that effect. I had a fire officer who I greatly respected early in my career had just made a side comment to me that really, really cut me deep and made me look at myself. And that comment is that I was the most self-serving person that they had ever met before. And I was like, wow, that really impacted me, because my family and my upbringing was, full of ministers, first responders, teachers, people who were not self-centered, who were, community focused or family focused. And I worked really hard over a number of years to not be that person anymore.
No, it is something that is definitely really hard. And as you say, it's just about, once again, just reflecting, just being able to understand how you show up and how you choose to show up. And I think it's at what cost, really, how you said about influencers, and just being able to see what message they are portraying. Because yes, it's good and all, oh my gosh, it's amazing that you might get sent these clothes for free and then you get paid, blah, blah, blah. But it's at what cost? Because yes, this may seem amazing and it's not having a negative impact on you, it's actually having a positive one. But then what about those young people who are trying to find themselves, and then they may look up to you, and then all of a sudden they're then going down the wrong route? I think it's definitely something that then allows us just to sort of change that lens in a way and see how we are not only impacting ourselves, but also the lives of others as well.
Yeah. And you look at how the last 3 or 4 months has changed people's attitude. How many pairs of trainers do I actually need? Right. And it's, and there's birdsong all of a sudden, and the sea's blue, and all of these things have given us the opportunity just to sort of step back, as you've said all along, and really sort of map out how we're going to move forward, giving us a chance to almost reset.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's like a friend of mine, his name's Pete, he said, like, this lockdown scenario it's then put us on pause, where it's about whether, as a result of this sort of like coming to an end, it's about deciding whether we want to press play and leave that same track on, or insert a new disc and start a new chapter in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what are your views on morning routine?
Good, Matt.
I don't have a morning routine, Trey. If I get a phone call at 7 a.m., I take it. If I don't, I'll stay in bed until the last minute and dash into work. And I've got everything here, breakfast, coffee, and I can just get set up and set for the day. But I think because I work on different time zones, it really isn't a thing. I can start here at 9, but then America isn't starting, for another 3-4 hours. So my mornings tend to be quieter here in the UK, and then I can work into the evening to sort of marry up to the sort of American time and where the majority of my work colleagues are.
So, my morning routine is coffee, and more coffee. But to give you a little bit better of an answer, there was an admiral, a U.S. Navy admiral, that gave a commencement speech, Admiral McRaven. And in that commencement speech, I want to say it was 2000, it was a few years ago. He noted that it is important that you get up in the morning and you make your bed, not only to keep you, disciplined and be able to keep a routine, but when you go out into the world, and the world is not always, as we've noted, the kindest place. Whenever you get home, you can come home to a freshly made bed and, get up to a new day tomorrow. And, it's kind of an inspiring talk and an interesting perspective. So, morning routines, grab your coffee and make your bed.
No, it's definitely important, as you said, just to know that regardless of how the day goes, you then have those successes and you've actually achieved something. Like that's an amazing, amazing way to start your day. And you guys spoke briefly about your childhood. So what advice would you give to your younger self?
I would say if you've got a vision and you can see it, this is the perfect time to do it. Trust your instincts, take the risks, and if you want it, go and get it. Now is the perfect time.
Yeah. I think I kind of go back to what I said in the beginning, be kinder to your teachers and actually listen to people. Listen, not just to respond, but actually listen. You'll have a more interesting conversation when you do it that way, and you'll be able to relate and have better relations with people when you take that approach.
No, exactly. I definitely think that's something that's important, as you said, just being able to listen, acknowledge, and then it makes it even more better is then when replying, if you then quote what they said, it then sort of lights the person up because they understand that you've then taken the time to acknowledge what they say, you've generated an answer, and then you've simply merged the two into one another. And it's something that's so powerful and it's so underused and undervalued, actually.
Yeah. And that's the secret of media training right there, Trey.
Yeah. Definitely.
Too many people in this world are stuck in the perspective that my perspective is the right and only perspective. And all we have to do is, turn on the television and look at our governments and the opposing political sides to see that is where we're at in the world today, and that nobody is listening to actually hear what somebody is saying. We're just listening to respond with our spin, our twist, our ideology placed upon our response. And, if we go back and look at, I guess in your circumstance, Parliament, and ours, Congress, when we were able to try to find common ground, we were able to do much better for those around us. And I think we need to find our way back to that.
But I think going back to your younger self, when you're 14, 15, 16, life seems long, far away, and life gets in the way real quick.
Yeah.
So, jump in, seriously, jump in before it does.
Yeah. As soon as you graduate high school, the years seem to rapidly accelerate by. A 9-month school year seems like an absolute eternity when you're in your teens. But 9 months is simply just an absolute blink of an eye.
So start a business, start a band, start something, just go for it.
Yeah.
No, definitely that's something just important, just being able to definitely that's something that is so important, just being able to simply have that value for time and simply understand that, yes, this may seem like it's taking forever to end, but then sometimes it's going to get to the stage where you want things to slow down, and simply being able to appreciate, simply be in the now is something that is so important. And could you share some advice for those who may be starting a brand new business or simply just starting a brand new venture in their life?
I think if you're going to start anything or anything you do in your life, as I said, be open-minded and listen, but you stick to your values. You don't have to compromise to be successful. You don't have to go with what the crowd says you have to do. You don't have to follow your friends. And some of the most successful people, have stuck to their values, stuck to their guns, and pursued forward and didn't follow the crowd. So, it's not a bad thing to be unique. It's not a bad thing to be different. If there were not people who were different in this world, it would be an absolutely boring place if everybody in the world was a Ryan Burke or a Matt Eccles.
You look at an athlete or an artist and look at the sacrifices they make and the practice they put in.
Yeah.
Pays off.
Given talent by, whatever creator you pray to, does have influence on certain things, but, your heart and your determination can overcome some of those non-provided talents, if you will. You just have to have the intestinal fortitude to drive through the pain, to move forward past the challenging times and get to that point on the other side.
You will find quickly in your life that people will back attitude over ability every time.
No, exactly. Just about, as they say, like your attitude determines your altitude. And I think that's something that is so important. Like, you may have that natural talent, you may have that gift in that certain area of expertise, but if you're not willing to actually put in the hard work and actually consistently do it, then eventually it's going to get to a point where others will spot you because they're willing to put in that time, put in the dedication, and put in that effort to then actually work for it. So I think that's something that is a very important point that you both raised. And lastly, could you guys share where the listeners can then go and check out you guys?
I'll defer to Matt as our marketing director for that one.
Okay. Yeah, we're clearly, we got our website. That's the tytekgroup.com. We've got the two strands of the business to that. That's tytekmedical.com and tytekindustries.com. And then we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, across all the social feeds. I think we're at Bleeding Control for our medical, and it's at Tytek Medical or Tytek Industries on those other channels. So yeah, we're pretty far and wide. I think we see the value in social media. You know, there's no point having a website if you can't drive anyone to come and see what we're about or what we do.
Yeah.
And if you want to stop by, we'd be very welcome to. We're very happy to see you.
I definitely really do urge you listeners to go and check them out. I hope you guys have learned so much from this interview. I definitely know that I have. And I'd like to thank both yourself, Matt and Brian, for coming on the show today.
Trey, it's been our pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting us. We've really enjoyed it.
Absolutely, my friend. Thank you for the opportunity. And, if anybody has questions on how they could potentially save a life, don't hesitate to reach out, and Matt and I can help point you in the right direction.
Very much so.
Definitely, I really do appreciate it. I really do appreciate you guys listening to the end. And if you guys have any questions, please do go and check out Matt and Brian on the social medias, as they said. And I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And that's it from me. Bye.